Welcome back to the NFL NBA Rectable with your host. That's Kevin Dana. I'm Alan Wu. This week we're going to have something a little different with some highlight clips thanks to JB1000JB on YouTube. So thanks for that. So this is our NBA edition. Once again, we're going to be going over the very busy offseason that the Warriors have been having. So last week they had a multitude of moves. It started with acquiring Marcus Williams from the Nets for a future first-round pick. Later on in the week, the Warriors then re-signed Monte Ellis to a huge deal of 6 years, reportedly about $66 million. That same day, they matched the offer sheet that the Los Angeles Clippers had put out to Kelena Azubuike, and the Warriors also signed their second-round pick from this year, Richard Hendricks. Later on in the week, the Warriors also signed a contract with Anthony Morrow, an undrafted shooting guard who played with their summer league teams. And just recently, on Monday, the Warriors re-signed Andris Biedrins to a 6-year, reportedly $62 to $63 million deal. So, with all those moves, Kevin, we'll start off with the big ones, Ellis and Biedrins. Do you think they're worth the kind of money that they got, both 6 years, about $65 million?
I definitely think they are worth that money. Maybe not from what they have produced right now, but both of these guys have improved every year they have been in the league. I feel like maybe these contracts are for what Chris Mullin sees what they can become. And if you take a look at Andris Biedrins at first, 10.5 points, 9.8 rebounds, in 27.3 minutes per game this last season. When he played over 30 minutes a game, he was averaging 13 points and 13 rebounds. Those are huge numbers. So if Andris Biedrins can see some more time there out on the court, he's going to be putting up big numbers. And mind you, the offense is not run through Andris Biedrins. He's getting those off of screens, pick and rolls, and the likes of that. And he has great hands, and he can catch any pass that is thrown to him down the paint. Now with Monte Ellis, he almost got the most improved player for a second consecutive year, the jump that he has had. He averaged 20 points a game last season, and now this is going to be his team, so expect his numbers to increase even more next season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Biedrins. If you look at just even his free throw shooting, which started out absolutely atrocious, around like 50%, bumped it up to 60-some% last year. Also led the league with about a 62-63% field goal percentage. So he's a very efficient player, and like you mentioned, he gets his points even without the offense going through him. But definitely, he's only 22, and he's just at the beginning of his career. But the thing that kind of worries me about Ellis is the fact that they're trying to put him into that point guard position, and I'm just not sure that that's where he is. I think that, like you mentioned, he's a very good player, but he's a scorer. You know, he's very efficient with his scoring. That 18-foot jump shot is very good, and especially towards the latter half of last season, he really caught fire and really picked up his game. But I'm just not sure that, forcing him to try and be the point guard, I don't know. He could develop into one, but I feel like he's more of an Allen Iverson type of player and just more of a he just seems to be a born scorer, a natural scorer. I'm just not sure that he'll be able to take the role of commanding the team on the court,
I would definitely like to see Monte Ellis playing that 2 position as well. But for the time being, let's see if the Monte Ellis point guard situation works. If not, they have Marcus Williams that they just signed, and we can see what he did. He's averaged over 6 points and 3 assists in 16 minutes for his career. So if he eventually becomes a starting point guard and has those kind of numbers just inflated for more minutes, he's looking at around 12 points and 6 assists, and that's very decent for a starting point guard.
Yeah, but we'll have to see if he pans out. It was sort of placed behind people on the Nets, behind first Jason Kidd, and then when they brought in Devin Harris this year. But we'll have to see if he pans out. Apparently there's some questions about his consistency, his conditioning, which really needs to pick up if he's going to play in the Warriors' up-tempo offense. But, only brought in for a future first-round pick, again, a young player. He was a first-round pick back in '06. So there's a lot of potential there. Warriors basically are taking a flyer, seeing if they can develop a point guard for the future. Let's go back to some of these other moves now. The biggest one after those 3 is Kelena Azubuike matching the offer sheet. Now last week, we were talking about how he would fit in if he left or if he stayed. Do you think that we talked about the minute situation? This becomes a very crowded bench now. Do you think he's worth the minutes and the money that the Warriors put in?
I don't think so. And once again, I am a huge Clint Azubuike fan. But you have Marco Bellinelli there sitting on the bench, and when he gets minutes, he can be a very productive force for this Golden State Warriors team. And having Clint Azubuike there is only going to take away from Marco Bellinelli's time. And like you mentioned, Alan, this is a very crowded bench now. And there's a 15-man roster, totally full, and there's not going to be a lot of minutes to go around for some guys who can be really effective off the bench if they have the sufficient minutes.
Yeah, but I tend to disagree a little bit. I know that, Bellinelli was a first-round pick. There's a lot invested to him. But I think that the biggest thing is Clint Azubuike has already proven that he can play and play well in the system. I mean, before Steven Jackson came back from his injury, those first 7 games of the season, Azubuike was averaging 20-plus points a game in those. And if he had the minutes, he was playing very effective basketball. And the thing I liked the most was that late in the season, when there was that back-to-back series with the Los Angeles Lakers, he played some very, very solid defense on Kobe Bryant. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody stops Kobe Bryant. I think that's pretty much been a proven fact. No one stops him one-on-one. But he did a very good job of sort of containing Kobe and making him find harder shots to try and do his damage against the Warriors during those games. So I think he brings that added element that Bellinelli might not have brought. But going to some of these other guys, Richard Hendricks, Anthony Morrow, more developmental projects, how do you see them, fitting in with the Warriors down the line?
Well, they definitely won't be getting a lot of minutes this year, but they can both definitely be factors in the future, like you mentioned, Alan. Start with Anthony Morrow. This guy tore it up at the Rocky Mountain Review, 21 points per game. And more importantly, 27 of 39 from beyond the arc. And in a Nelly ball system, that is exactly what the head coach is looking for. Someone who's just going to jack up a lot of threes and make them with consistency. That's almost 70% from beyond the arc. Now with Richard Hendricks, he had a very solid summer league as well, averaging almost 10 rebounds per game. He brings another big frame to the bench, 6'9", 250 pounds. So he definitely adds more meat to this Golden State roster.
Yeah, I think that this just gives the Warriors an amazing amount of depth right now, because these guys are basically, they're going to be getting a lot of DNP coaches' decisions during the season, because there's just no spot for them. But like you mentioned, they definitely have skills where if they can come in and get a couple minutes, they could offer some relief to some of those starters or even the bench players if really pressed. All right, well that's it for this edition. We're going to have a bonus edition breaking down the Warriors roster, so make sure to check that out.